The Gospel of John, the last gospel to be written, is very different from Matthew, Mark, and Luke in the sense that it's called and even subtitled the Gospel of Signs. The first sign in the Gospel, the first miracle that Jesus performs in the Gospel of John is that wedding feast of Cana. But the first words that Jesus speaks in that gospel, which is significant to the writer and also to us, is the words we just heard. What are you looking for? That question is essential to all of our lives. What is our goal in life? What are we looking for in life? And those words addressed to us, and how Jesus also today, when the disciple says, "Where do you stay?" He doesn't give them an answer. He says, "Come and see." He placed no demands upon them, no expectations other than to spend time. Come and see. All of our relationships in life, whether they're from childhood through adulthood, the relationships that we come and we get to know and enter into, they come from a different pattern, a different way, but all of them in many ways have a common kind of essence. We have taken time for them. We've taken time to get to know. And for us and for you who have experienced falling in love, you also, by taking that time, get to the point, I can't live without you. We become so intermeshed with the other that all of our thoughts, all of our lives can become intertwined with the other. It comes on that time. At the end of the Mass, we will be spending some time as we start our process this year for our stewardship, and it's always called time, talent, and treasure. And it truly is to flow in that. It's our time is in many ways that all of us know today is our most valuable asset. What do we take time for? How do we spend our time? How do we get to know and brought into relationships? Today in our first reading, that sense of Samuel not knowing who that voice was, and he identified the voice that he had with the person that he was around, is because in many ways, that's how we come to know God, is through others, the voice of others, the presence of others. Attentive listening, but also our voices become intertwined of how God is really present to us in our lives. In our second reading, when St. Paul talks about the body, there's a lot of things going on there, but essentially, again, the outward sign of our bodies. That's why we are so pro-life in our faith, and it's also intertwined with the essence of us, because every person, every infant, from the moment of conception to the end, is a temple of God. And how do we show our support of that preciousness? Of this Wednesday night, because, again, going to Washington, that they will be doing on Thursday for many people, the hundreds of thousands, but it gets very, very little media exposure, even though it's right there present. Is that visible presence. How do we show that we stand up for what we believe in our signs? Today in our gospel, this little kernel, this beginning, has all the essence of every relationship and also a sense of all we are. That sense, what are you looking for? And then taking time. And then in spending time, it changes us. Andrew becomes the conduit of Peter coming to know. In our lives, when we experience great relationships, we want to share those. We want other people to be introduced to them, to see what we see, to imagine what we have. And that in many ways is how we grow in who we are. So that this day, as many of us, and soon I will too, have the Coast jersey on, those visible signs, is really also something about who we are. We make the sign of the cross. We are to give that sign to others. So today, let us ponder all these kinds of words, all these messages as we journey and be in the visible presence. In our stewardship that we will hear about, how's our time? How do we come and see what God has for us, how God is working through us? How do we bring others to know God? At least be introduced to them to experience. How do we, and especially in this week, when we come together again to remember the event of the Supreme Court years ago, who changed in many ways what we see as right or wrong, but how do we stand up? How are we in our bodies visible to each other that this is valuable to us and we celebrate life? We are people who really promote life. These are opportunities for us. Will we come and see? Will we take our time? Who else are we bringing to invite?